And he's the one that ratted me to Vince when I tried to unionize. But then I understand why. When we went to court, I saw in WrestleMania 3, Hogan got paid more than all of us combined. Now, why would he want a union when he's getting taken care of?
Yep, just a greedy piece of shit. Also, massive ass racist. So, first off, for everyone who doesn't know, Hulk Hogan was a big union-busting scab.
As far as Hogan goes, it doesn't surprise me, because when I was in wrestling in the 80s, I tried to unionize wrestling, and it was Hulk Hogan who cut my legs out from under me. Hulk Hogan went to Vince McMahon, ratted me out, and subsequently later on cost me my job. So it doesn't surprise me to see Hogan with the Republicans, because Hogan's as anti-union as you can get. There still is not a union in professional wrestling. The reason I tried to do it, I was in an elevator and ran into Gene Upshaw, the great tackle guard from the Oakland Raiders. Right. And Big Gene raised his finger up and looked at me and says, you boys need to form a union. I tried to do it, and it was Hulk Hogan who ratted me out to Vince McMahon, and subsequently I was fired and lost my job.
Like, what a scumbag. Just like the definition of pulling the ladder from up above just to make sure no one else ever has a chance to make it. I didn't know this because I'm not like a huge professional wrestling fan, but someone posted this to me on Blue Sky, and the amount of protections that a union could have provided for, you know, wrestlers throughout the years may have prevented a lot of premature professional wrestling deaths, but the list is astounding. Like, yes, there's not a lot who died under 20, but once you get to under 30, and you start going through the list of names, it's like, Jesus Christ, this is so many people. And then under 40, I mean, the under 40 is just monstrous people who, yeah, it's like, it's obviously scripted in the sense that, like, yeah, they're not literally trying to like punch each other in the face, they're slapping each other, or it's a dance, right? A coordinated dance. This is the under 50 now, of people who died prematurely from, you know, complications, everything from illnesses, heart attacks, brain aneurysms, lots of suicides, lots of things. But it is a very, very heavy toll on the human body when you just, like, you know, the fucking Jesus Christ, the list. And like that's one of the things that like having a workers union could have helped a little bit more, is that we need better protections for the wrestlers themselves. They are entertainers, they love their jobs, they want to do this, and like anything else, it's a dream job for people who can achieve at the highest level. There's amateur wrestling. If you've never seen it, amateur wrestling can be really fun too. I've seen the luchadors before perform in Mexico. That's probably the best wrestling match I've ever seen in my entire life. Like they know how to put on a show, but the whole thing is when you're watching it, that shit still fucking hurts. You're still going to be breaking bones. You're still going to be bleeding. You're still going to be falling on your back. Even if you have a relatively padded mat, that's if you land on the mat, but you can, you know, get thrown out of the ring, and then someone can smash you with a folding chair. And the whole idea is that, like, yeah, this is not supposed to literally break your back so you can wrestle again tomorrow. But if you do it 100 times over time, these injuries start to compound, and yeah, eventually leads to a lot of people who have very serious health problems later in life.
Hulk were once good friends.
Yeah.
What's the likelihood of that ever being repaired?
Never.
Why?
I have to have a trust with someone to be their friend. And he's the one that ratted me to Vince when I tried to unionize. I told my lawyer the story, and in deposition you could ask about anything. And so I wanted to know who ratted me in the locker room, because there were no agents, no one from the office was in there when I did it. So it had to be one of the boys. With no hesitation, Vince went, Hulk Hogan told me. And I didn't show any emotion, but I almost tipped over in the chair because he was my friend. And I thought, but then I understand why. When we went to court, I saw in WrestleMania 3, Hogan got paid more than all of us combined. Now, why would he want a union when he's getting taken care of?
You and Hulk.
Yep, just a greedy piece of shit. Also, massive ass racist. Hated black folk. Hulk Hogan, the 1980s wrestling superstar who elevated WWE to the mainstream, died Thursday at the age of 71. Six-time WWE champion who was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2005. One of the reasons why he had to switch over to other wrestling leagues, by the way, is that like eventually people just didn't want to fuck with him because he was such a racist ass piece of shit. Outside of the ring, Hogan could be a divisive figure. An outspoken supporter of President Donald Trump, Hogan famously sued Gawker Media out of existence after it published a sex tape of him. We'll talk about that and how Peter Thiel was involved. In particular, there was an incident in 2015 in which Hogan was fired from the WWE after leaked audio surfaced using racial slurs. At the time, and that's not the first time, by the way, but at the time, Hogan had reportedly learned that his daughter, Brooke Hogan, was dating a black man. According to a transcript that was obtained and published by Radar Online and the National Enquirer at the time, Hogan was recorded as saying, I'd rather that she was going to go fuck some N-word. I'd rather have her marry an 8-foot-tall N-word worth $100 million like a basketball player. I guess, yeah, we're all a little racist. Fucking N-words. After news of the racist rant surfaced, the WWE was quick to distance itself from Hulk Hogan, removing all references to him from its main website and releasing the following statement. WWE terminated its contract with Terry Below, I guess is his real name, that committed to embracing and celebrating individuals from all backgrounds, as demonstrated by the diversity of our employees, performers, and fans worldwide. 8 years ago, I used offensive language during a conversation. It was unacceptable for me to have used offensive language. There's no excuse for it, and I apologize for having used it. I think even more than the offensive language, because yeah, please don't use the N-word, sir, but also I would say the content of what you were talking about and maybe what it was revealing about your deeply held beliefs. I saw a lot of people posting stories that apparently like when one of his friends was in a car accident, one of the things that he brought up, or no, he felt that his greatest fear was that he might be reincarnated as a black person, like that level of racism. You know, we're talking like plantation owner, fucking hood in the closet style guy, which is why, like, yeah, outside of the terrible workers' rights, being a scab, you know, trying to stop anybody, there's also him testifying on the behalf of Vince McMahon when people were trying to bring attention to the amount of steroid abuse that was taking place within the wrestling federation. There's documentaries on it you can watch. The really huge problem was Vince McMahon started demanding really, you know, I would say it takes a toll on the body kind of conditions for his wrestlers. I want you to be big. I want you to be huge. I want to see monsters on stage, gladiators just smashing into each other kind of shit. And, you know, encouraging a lot of his players to do whatever it took to get there, aka you should be actually doing, you know, steroids. And obviously steroids have anabolic steroids, detrimental effects on the human body, and you know, they can be really bad on the heart, leading to you know, fatal heart conditions, the shrinking of testicles, you know, the reduce of bone density, like all this kind of shit happens. It's really unhealthy for people to do, but at the end of the day, he wanted a show to go on, and when people were supposed to testify in regards to it, Hulk Hogan ended up betraying everybody to try and be like, oh no, this is not what happened, you know, it's not what you think, all that kind of stuff. So it's pronounced Bolea. All right, it's his name. What? I've never even heard of a name like that. But yeah, that all sucked. Then there's this one, which is fucking wild. Bolea versus Gawker isn't just one of the most consequential lawsuits in the history of the modern American media, it's also probably the strangest. In 2016, Hulk Hogan, the professional wrestler, ran a 9-figure lawsuit that ultimately bankrupted the entire Gawker media, a fleet of sites that epitomized the barbed brilliance of New York's young media crowd. The lawsuit concerned a video of Hogan having consensual sex with his best friend's wife, while at the same time recording the encounter secretly, according to Hogan and later reporting. Behind the scenes of the tawdry affair, a more shocking story was playing out in which Peter Thiel, a billionaire investor, you might know him now as the guy who's basically backing the current Trump administration, seems to be exercising a deep grudge against Gawker by bankrolling Hogan's lawsuit to destroy the media company and publishing the sex tape. The saga is the subject of a new book by the author and media strategist Ryan Holiday. Shortly after the verdict, both Thiel and Gawker founder Nick Denton reached out to Holiday about the coverage of the lawsuit in the New York Observer. Over 2 years, Holiday turned that access into the first book reporting the chronicles of the lawsuit into a revelation. In the book, it says that Holiday reports for the first time that a 20-something acquaintance of Thiel's, identified only as Mr. A, not only came up with the idea in April 2011, before the publication of the Hogan video, to target Gawker through an open-ended legal fund, but also spearhead the plot to take down Gawker using Thiel's money. I spoke to Holiday last week about the new information he's uncovered. So on December 19, 2007, Gawker's tech blog, Valleywag, published a post under the headline, Peter Thiel is totally gay, people, ending with the sentence, I think it's important to say this, Peter Thiel, the smartest VC in the world, is gay. More power to him. Based on your conversations with Thiel, why do you think he's so mad about the blog post if most of his friends and their friends knew he was gay? My initial instinct was that it must have been pure anger. What was strange, though, in that speaking to Peter Thiel, I never saw the anger. Of course, sources can present a mask, but I feel that this would have been a flicker of it. I think what happened was this. The article comes out, and it was a rude awakening for a private person. The article was legal, but it was also tasteless and deliberately insensitive. But what Peter reacts to the most is the comment from the bottom, which was written by Denton. The comment is one sentence long. The only thing that's strange about Thiel's sexuality, why on earth was he so paranoid about his discovery for so long? He thought Denton was implying that Peter had psychological problems. When you read the comment, it doesn't feel that way. But Thiel thought, we're the publisher of a media outlet, not just a blogger, was going after me. The blog post felt like the first article in years, a negative Gawker coverage against Thiel. Since Thiel war on Gawker bankrupted the company, that's probably the most expensive internet comment in world history. I'm really struck by your reporting that Thiel went around calling Gawker the MBTO, which stood for the Manhattan-based terrorist organization. Why did he feel terrorized? I think there was an element of unpredictability to it. Most of the media plays by certain rules, but Gawker wrote its own rules, and that scared certain powerful people. Outing was more or less off limits for most news outlets, so I kept thinking, what kept Thiel and other people like him up at night? If they can out me, what's next? Will they publish a harmful rumor, even a false rumor? Thiel ponders revenge for years. Then, as you report in April 2011, he is in Berlin, and it takes a meeting when the 26-year-old Thiel, the devotee, which you call Mr. A, this young man essentially tells Thiel, I know you're obsessed with Gawker, and I have an idea how to destroy him. So how do they go about that?
Back in 2006, Hulk Hogan had been depressed over the state of his marriage. I love where this story starts, which is, I had, again, just casually hearing it, I had thought that it was a case of like he was just cheating on Bubba with Bubba's wife. No. Hulk comes over because he's getting a divorce, and he's just in a dark place, and he needs his friend Bubba the Love Sponge. And
the
Bubba...
Hulkster's in a dark place.
The Hulkster's in a bad place. I really need some comfort. And Bubba the Love Sponge is like, Hulkster, you know what'll cheer you up? Fucking my wife. Why don't you go into my bedroom and fuck my wife? And the Hulk said, okay, but you're not gonna film this, are you, brother? I know you always film people who have sex in your house. You're not gonna film the Hulk's dick, are you? And Bubba was like, of course I'm not gonna film you. And then, of course, he films the Hulk having sex with his wife. And he takes the recording.
Why is Bubba the Love Sponge this weird racist fucking creep in the middle of so many people's stories? Like, it's Tucker Carlson too. Tucker Carlson loved his show. He used to call into it all the time and just like be a pedophile. He would just call into Bubba the Love Sponge show and say the grossest, most pedophilic things, sometimes the most racist shit, but like mostly pedophile shit, and then do so anonymously. It's just a random caller, right, pretending to be anybody. No one knew that it was Tucker Carlson at the time. That eventually got leaked, and that's where the whole fiasco started happening. But like, what is Hulk Hogan doing, being good friends with this racist shock jock, and then trusting a racist shock jock who was notoriously known for filming people, sometimes without their consent, and then being like, hey, yeah, I want you to have sex with my wife, and then being like, oh, okay. You're not gonna film it though. Definitely not. Nope. I'm definitely not going to do that. Not a thing that I'm going to do. A thing that I'm kind of known for, but not going to do it. You're fine. Everything will be okay.
Made in his house, and he puts the recording in his desk at the radio station where he works.
Incredible. Like you do.
Amazing shit.
Yeah. That's incredible.
So funny. This is such a funny case. Like, a lot of good people lost their jobs, but this part of it's really funny.
Yeah.
Some people, yeah. Not all good people lost their jobs, but a lot of good people did. So fast forward about 6 years. Obama is on his way to term number dos, and Bubba gets in a conflict with a guy who Ryan Holiday describes as this is the funniest term in the world, rival DJ.
Yeah, sure.
Nothing sadder than the words rival DJ.
Especially rival Florida DJ.
Yeah, rival Florida DJ.
Yeah.
If this is, and again, there's some debate. I'm not saying this is absolutely what happened, but this is probably it's certainly the most entertaining and probably the most credible story as to why this all happens. If this is accurate, the whole destruction of Gawker thing started.
Charlie Jean Mears, thank you so much. Honestly, the kind of behavior I'd expect from a guy who goes by the Love Sponge. Yeah, that's true. We shouldn't be holding the Love Sponge to very high standards. I mean, he did choose his own lane.
Because Bubba the Love Sponge at a rival Florida DJ had an argument over who was going to get which time slot, and the rival DJ broke into his desk and stole the videos to hold him for them for ransom, basically, and ultimately leaked the videos to Gawker to embarrass Bubba the Love Sponge. Hulk was only ever an accidental casualty.
He was collateral damage.
He was collateral damage. The poor Hulkster.
Oh, that's in the great Florida DJ world.
Yeah, and the great
2010.
game of Florida DJs. He's Afghanistan.
Wait, is the rival DJ Mr. A the secret? I mean, maybe the rival DJ was the secret hands behind it all.
I'm gonna say definitely. I'm gonna say definitely in a way that makes iHeartMedia legally responsible if I'm wrong. Absolutely.
Yeah, because if there's one DJ, all radio, iHeartMedia, boom.
Right, of course, we've got to be tied into this. Oh my God.
Yeah, it all connects. Get out your Palantir crazy board.
Call the CEO. We're gonna blow this thing wide open.
It's a complicated story because, I mean, multiple things can be true at once, right? I don't think, well, first off, I mean, the assumption here is that Peter Thiel wasn't effectively secretly in the closet. It was something that was known. It was just not something that he spoke about publicly, and not a lot of people reported on him at all, period. And he was just basically one of those, eccentric evil billionaires who got to operate in the shadows. Like, there's a lot of billionaires you never hear about because they don't want to have public-facing profiles. Then there's other billionaires who are obsessed with having public-facing profiles. Elon Musk is a fucking really, really good example of that, right? But then there's so many other people who are in the top 10 richest human beings who you never see them do TV interviews, because why would they? They're like, no, I don't want people to know who I am and hate me. I want to stay one of the richest human beings and fuck over all of society and maintain my core wealth. And for a long time, that was kind of, the way Peter Thiel was operating. Gawker, ended up running that story. And then Peter Thiel wants to take down Gawker. That could be one part of it. The bigger picture here, though, is that billionaires shouldn't have the ability to simply destroy any media institution that they want to because they don't like them or they don't like their coverage or reporting. That is way scarier, right? Obviously, because billionaires like Peter Thiel, if you ever look at the way that Peter Thiel operates, and he's getting very, very close to achieving his techno-monarchy, he effectively doesn't really think of human beings as human beings. He sees us all as basically ants, ones, and zeros, so that they need to be controlled, heavily inspired in the worst way from a lot of science fiction novels from the early past, but not taking the lessons of those science fiction novels. Like, if someone were to read Dune and be like, oh, so Dune is about how fascism, dictatorships are good and you should become the worm emperor, that's what it's all about. That's kind of how Peter Thiel saw it, because that's the way he sees the world. And so that part really, really, really fucking sucks. So in this case, this is something that was a plot, a plan, and had been orchestrated well before the Hulk Hogan angle came along, essentially.
Trials of the free press. I mean, this is a remarkable film where you really look at the lead up to this administration and all that took place, and President Trump's supporters, specifically Peter Thiel. Tell us what you found and why you have spent this time looking at Peter Thiel suits against the press and what it...
The other part of the story is that Gawker went after him because he was advocating for anti-LGBTQ plus legislation. They hit him on his hypocrisy. That's also true. That part's not usually as reported, because I knew a lot of people at the time were just basically like, well, it was still wrong of Gawker to operate in that way and to reveal that information. And it's like, yeah, but like the greater evil here is the potential for a billionaire with infinitely more power than a small amount of tech writers ever will have to be silenced because that powerful and rich billionaire doesn't like what they say or report on.
Means for today.
Right. Well, this film actually started as a kind of deep dive into the Hulk Hogan Gawker Media case, in which Hulk Hogan was suing Gawker Media for posting a sex tape of him. And so I was interested in that. I thought it was a really interesting First Amendment versus privacy kind of case. And so we started making a documentary, but then we realized afterwards there was a $140 million verdict against Gawker, which was the death sentence for Gawker. They were forced into bankruptcy. And then it was revealed that Peter Thiel, Silicon Valley investor, venture capitalist, early Facebook investor, was actually funding Hulk Hogan's lawsuit. So the film became something very different. We started looking at this notion of Peter Thiel funding this lawsuit that led to the death of this online.
Wow, he looks way more normal. Now he just looks like a swollen testicle, like someone has just been clamping someone's balls until the veins are popping out of his forehead. He doesn't look nearly as ghoulish here. And
website. And that, of course, was before he spoke at the RNC, became a Trump supporter, and eventually came on became part of the Trump transition team. So that was an opening that we needed to look at how money really has a leverage against news organizations and how news organizations might be vulnerable to people with an axe to grind. Let's go to a clip from your documentary, Nobody Speak, Trials of the Free Press. This is Washington Post media columnist Margaret Sullivan, the former public editor for the New York Times.
Trump has done a number of things over the course of his campaign that should give us a great deal of cause for concern. Among them are his lack of transparency, his inaccessibility, his extremely harsh criticism and even abuse of journalists.
When I raise money for veterans, excuse me, I've watched you on television. You're a real beauty.
Immigrants on the whole
Come on, try getting it out. Try getting it out.
I'll get it out.
I mean, I don't know if you're going to put this on television, but you know.
Wow, he doesn't have the juice anymore, eh? He's lost that edge. He's nowhere near as confrontational. Now it's all in slow motion. Like, it's just him being like, I'm gonna reduce drugs by 500%, 1,000%. My uncle was the professor for the Unabomber. Yeah.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
He's really been vociferous in his criticism of the...
Like, back in the day, he used to be an attack dog, right? And he used to go after the media, whom, yeah, there's not a lot of fans of the mainstream media in either direction. So for the Republicans, they were just like, oh my God, holy shit, this dude is calling it like it is. Look at that. Just calling it to their faces.
Press.
Is this what it's going to be like covering you if you're president?
Yeah, it is.
We're going to have this kind of confrontation in the press room?
Okay, yeah, it is going to be like this, David.
In general, he's called the media and reporters scum. He has said over and over and over again that they're dishonest, that they're corrupt.
They don't want to give it straight.
Because the press are liars. They're terrible people.
These are the most dishonest human beings right back.
Brian Knappenberger, director of Nobody Speak, Trials of the Free Press. That's a clip from it and the significance of this. And tell us more about Peter Thiel and also what the attack on Gawker meant for journalism, whether or not people like Gawker, and Sheldon Adelson and what happened with him in the takeover of Las Vegas paper.
Right. Well, first of all, yeah, Gawker is a controversial site. A lot of people hated it, but I think that even if you think that they might have done something wrong, the fact that they were that this, first of all, enormous verdict, the fact that they would have lost this case, and then the fact that it could have been sort of the sort of secretive working behind the scenes, chess moves behind the scenes in order to get rid of them, was disturbing to a lot of people. We also look at the secretive purchase of the Las Vegas Review-Journal by Sheldon Adelson. This is an extraordinary story of a free press where the reporters at the Las Vegas Review-Journal were informed in a meeting, a big meeting, that their paper had been bought, which is, you know, an extraordinary thing for anybody in any company. Wow, we have new owners. And of course, being reporters, they said, well, who did it? Who's our new owner, and what are their expectations? What's their perspective? I think it's a natural question, and the answer that they got was, don't worry about it. You don't need to know. Just do your jobs.
You don't need to know who owns you.
You don't need to know who owns you. So the reporter said, well, wait a minute. What is our jobs? That is our job. So they immediately went to work trying to figure this out, who bought the paper. And so we follow that story, which I think is a pretty extraordinary tale of journalism, trying to figure out who bought the paper. That's their boss, so their jobs were on the line.
Peter Thiel and Donald Trump's relationship, the image of them hugging at the tech meeting in New York at Trump Tower when all the other tech leaders were there.
It's extraordinary. Yeah, I don't think they as far as I can tell, they didn't really know each other before the Gawker verdict. I think Trump, when he heard about it, was quoted as saying, "Oh, I love him," and so clearly they've been they are like-minded in many ways. So yeah, I think that's if this is the
and what all of this bodes for now.
Yeah, so I think we've got two things going on. We've got this vulnerability of the press to potentially, you know, people with a lot of money, billionaires who might have an axe to grudge, who are thin-skinned, that don't want to hear a word of criticism. And unfortunately, now we have one of those people in the executive branch of the United States government, who's one of the most powerful institutions in the world.
Finally, I wanted to go back to Mark Hertsgaard in New York, to the media's coverage of the Women's March all over the country.
I just wanted to see just a little bit more of that, but yeah, the Leftist Mafia is about to start.
Just when you thought the courtroom spectacle, that is the Hulk Hogan
this
trial,
is a while ago,
get any more bizarre, it did. The former pro wrestler is suing the website Gawker for posting a sex tape of him, and today in open court, the defense fired back by playing a clip of Hogan swinging on a wrecking ball in a thong. Here's ABC's Lindsay Janis.
You eventually had sexual relations with Mr. Belay?
Yes. It's the case with huge implications for celebrity privacy.
You recall the number?
That's what I also remembered being advertised as at the time, because I remember being like, yeah, I mean, on some level, even if the person does happen to be a scumbag, I don't think anyone should have, like, you know, unconsensual recordings of them released at all. Or I think that should be the crime, right? Like, why isn't Bubba the Love Sponge in jail at the end of the day?
To the best of my knowledge, I can think of 3 times that I remember. Private moments splashed all over the web, and then all over.
Like, I had no idea about the behind the scenes. Peter Thiel's funding this whole thing to take down Gawker as part of his long-standing attempt at destroying a media empire that he hated.
For the media.
There's a tape of you, Heather.
First off, I've never made a tape. I've never said,
you swear
hey,
you were not in on this.
I swear to God I wasn't.
But as ever more revealing and personal details spill out of the Hulk Hogan trial, now in its 9th day.
Were any of your sexual encounters with other men recorded during the times that you were married to Bubba?
Yes. A growing sense of just what that lost privacy can really mean.
Completely humiliated.
I was upset.
It's actually quite sickening.
Hogan, whose real name is Terry Bollea, is suing the gossip site for posting a portion of a 2007 tape of him having sex with Heather Clem, the then wife of his former best friend, radio shock jock Bubba the Love Sponge Clem.
Heather wants to have sex with you. It started out like that.
Hogan seeking $100 million for the alleged invasion of privacy, claiming he didn't know he was being filmed.
They made a conscious decision to expose Terry Bollea naked and engaged in sex and having private conversations in a private bedroom.
Gawker arguing that publishing a portion of that sex tape is protected by the First Amendment. And as journalists, they can cover the private matters of public figures.
This case is really about a news organization's ability to join a national conversation on a topic that's in the news. In this particular case, Hulk Hogan spent years talking in graphic detail about his sex life.
And today arguing that Hogan seems willing to shed his clothes and his dignity when it suits him, showing the jury this ad for his web hosting business, Hostamania.
No, don't do it.
A parody of Miley Cyrus's Wrecking Ball.
Did you find that doing that ad embarrassing?
It was kind of embarrassing, but I had only 3 people in the room with me when I sat on the wrecking ball with the tea bag on.
Did it work?
Yes.
How do you know?
We had over 3 million views.
But Hogan's attorneys pointing out that Gawker founder Nick Denton says he doesn't really believe in privacy, but also doesn't always want transparency in his own life.
You got married, what, 2 years ago, year and a half?
I did.
And if his guests thought they'd be able to tweet and post at his wedding, they soon found out otherwise.
You had a policy, right? This was told to all the guests before they come to your wedding, not to have their cell phones.
We asked them, yes, we didn't sue people who broke the rules.
The beginnings of the sex tape ordeal started when Hogan was in the midst of shooting a reality show called Hogan Knows Best. He says he and his then wife Linda drifted apart, but he had a friend who he says always had his back.
He was holding my father as my father passed away, so there was never any question of, you know, who he was or what he meant to me.
His name, Bubba Clem, that shock jock in Florida.
I was like, I don't think I've ever seen Bubba the Love Sponge. I heard his voice a ton from listening to all the Tucker Carlson clips, but yeah, that's it. It tracks.
Who suggests an unusual method to make him forget his troubles, offering up his own wife, Heather.
Bubba Clem asked you, and do you recall what your answer was?
I said I would. Hogan says he initially laughed it off.
I knew they had an open marriage, because he talked about it on the radio. But I thought with me, it was so many times that they talked to me, it kind of turned into a joke.
But at his lowest point, he says he called his friend Clem.
She basically said, I'm filing for divorce. All I did was call Bubba up, and I was just crying like a baby on the phone to him. I just broke down. When Bubba says, hey man, come over to the house, let's talk, I was just so desperate. I went over there.
What a disgusting group. Yeah, I know. Just across the board, everyone involved. And it's funny that, like, the bigger picture, because this is an old recording, right? This is from like nearly a decade ago. None of the discussion was at all about Peter Thiel. It was years later that documentaries and articles started coming out about the entire thing being orchestrated by Peter Thiel. Not him having sex with the ex-wife. That was all just them doing their shit. The whole, like, I'm going to fund this lawsuit because I want you to effectively destroy Gawker, because he wanted to destroy Gawker for a while.
One thing led to another. I just let my guard down. I felt like those people cared about me.
Moments after Hogan arrived, he says Clem's wife grabbed his hand and led him up the stairs to the bedroom.
From the feeling I had, I said, Bubba, you're not filming this, are you? And he just slashed into me. What the hell's wrong with you? I'm your effing best friend. How dare you say that to me?
But 5 years later, a tape of that night is posted by Gawker. Hogan says he didn't even believe his friend Clem was in on this either until later that day. A bombshell.
When they confirmed that Bubba was on the tape and Bubba went up and turned the camera off and Bubba told Heather that this is for our retirement, Heather, I just started violently shaking.
In a video deposition, Heather maintains neither she nor Hogan had any idea the encounter was being recorded.
To the best of your knowledge, Mr. Balea had no idea that there was a camera in the room at the time of your sexual encounter. Is that correct?
Yes. He then settled a lawsuit with Clem, who apologized for stating that Hogan knew he was being taped. But Hogan has refused to settle this one with Gawker.
Today was a very good day. Very good.
And for 9 days, the battle has raged in court, with both sides scoring points, sometimes at their own expense. Gawker's former editor-in-chief A.J. Delario seemed to contradict parts of Gawker's defense, that the tape was newsworthy and their decision to publish covered by the First Amendment.
The fact that Mr. Balea was taped having sex with his best friend's wife wasn't the news hook for your piece, was it?
No, not necessarily.
And you put that out in the public because you believed it was true and it was interesting, right?
Yes.
And it didn't really matter whether or not it was a morbid and sensational prying into people's lives for its own sake. That didn't matter, you did it.
No.
Later, the judge asking Denton to respond to this final question from the jury.
If the video was gratuitous, would you still believe it was covered under the First Amendment?
No, I wouldn't.
Nick saying, that anything gratuitous isn't covered by the First Amendment. I think everybody understands our position, and they actually...
If it wasn't enough, he's also been involved in Scientology for the last couple of years. Are we talking Hulk Hogan before his death, or someone else in the story?
Sounded like they were on our team.
Hogan getting caught in some alleged discrepancies, too.
Heather wants to have sex with you, or Heather wants to see the size of your... It started out like that, and then Heather just kind of started walking to the bedroom, pulling my hand, and I walked with her.
But does Heather's deposition contradict that?
Did you ever say to him, well, Mr. Balea, I want to get with you, I want to do this and that and the other stuff, I want to have sex with you?
Hulk Hogan was into Scientology. I didn't know that. The list of shit just keeps on growing. Hulk Hogan, Scientology. He was spotted with Tom Cruise, furthering Scientology recruitment rumors. Ah, interesting. Tom Cruise and Hulk Hogan are together at the Cowboys-Bucks game right now. Another terrible sign. I mean, for who?
Don't let this happen to you. Go to serfscoffee.com to order the only end-to-end owned indigenous coffee company that delivers blood-free, conflict-free, and cruelty-free beans right to your door. 0% of people who drink serfscoffee.com have exploded spontaneously. By ordering right now, you get 10% off plus free shipping, and it's the best way to enjoy delicious coffee while not exploding. That's serfscoffee.com, serfscoffee.com. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. This video wouldn't be at all possible without the financial support of all the people whose names you see on the screen right now. And if you want to unlock secret bonus episodes, content that we can't post anywhere else, or get the videos early before anyone else gets to see them, please go on to patreon.com/theserfs. For as little as $1, you can help support this channel and help make more videos like this possible. Our executive producers are Anna Loves Riley, Adrian McCarthy, Bobby Lasers, Cheryl Alvarez, Comrade Junkie, Doug Caddy, Everything Important, Garrett Sandoval, Hagbard Celine, Jimmy Sombrero, Multimondi, Omni, Political Papi, Preston Kroll, Quiet 185, Richard Boehm, Riley and Anna, Roller Dragon, Cernicus, Stellar Gwyn, Sebastian Demel, Tigwick, Trav, and Words Greenwood. And also, it wouldn't be possible without all the names you see on the screen right now. Again, if you want to help produce this content, it's only made possible through the funding of our patrons. Head on down to patreon.com/theserfs. That's patreon.com/theserfs.